We're in a femininity crisis and a masculinity crisis, and it feels awful to men. Human beings don't like this concept of ownership, but the problem is they've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. Everything is governed by that mentality shift towards taking ownership of the world in which we live. And it's no different with people. It's extraordinarily dangerous for us to perpetuate this idea that for a man to be disconnected from his emotional state is natural, or especially that it is not masculine. Emotions have literally nothing to do with masculine and feminine. Nothing. The negative repercussions of the women's rights movement is that so many men were trained to be passive. Passiveness will destroy you as a man. Absolutely destroy your life. Our relationships are falling apart. I mean, absolutely falling apart. What we're up against is two very drastic abysses. One of them being AI. Relationships are so drastically painful that there's a very high likelihood that people in general decide that it's better to just custom design your partner. People need to really get what I'm about to say here, because we are so far off right now. Ready for it? One of these experiments that I love to do when I go speak around the world in audiences, because it really doesn't matter where you are in the world, when you've got an audience full of women and men, and you have them raise their hands to the question, when was the last time, or not when was the last time, you start off with saying, like, when, in your lifetime, say, was there ever a moment that you felt like your life was at risk? Okay, so like most people raise their hand, because even if it was like, oh, you know, I was 5 years old and I fell off a swing. But you just start ramping this up by decreasing the time. So then you go, okay, how many of you within the last 5 years felt like your life is at risk? And of course, hands go down, right? And then you continue. How about in the last year? Now, what happens is that you reach this point where you've probably got 2 hands up of men in the entire audience, and every woman's hand is still raised. So then you keep ramping it up. You say, okay, how many of you felt like your life was at risk in the last week? Usually most of the men's hands are like completely down. So you've got no men at this point, and every woman's hand is still raised. So then I'd like to even go further and say, how many of you felt like your life is at risk today? And I'm not kidding you. The hands are still up. The thing that men need to understand about women is how they live from a baseline of fear, even if women themselves are so acclimatized to this that they're not even realizing that they're in this state of fear. Women are living in a very, very different experience of the world than men are. And they're coming at the world from this baseline of fear. And so fear is really the thing that men need to be answering to in their relationships with women.
Yeah, I mean, paints quite a poignant picture, because I don't think men have that awareness of just the lack of safety that women are feeling moment to moment, consistently just existing in this world. Whereas for men, yeah, I mean, we felt threatened at points. But then, and it's also, I think it's interesting, like, we have different mechanisms to cope with said fear when it happens as well. Tuning into how do women then actually navigate reality in and around, like, what are the threats that women are feeling? How do they generally navigate the reality around it with so much fear part of it? It's just baked in. They just learn to deal with it.
Yeah. It's the all you know. And so as a woman, you don't really realize how much of your life experience is designed to try to cope with these types of dangers. And it's not just, physical dangers, because that's where all men go mentally, right? They're just like, oh, I understand lions, tigers, bears. Wait, there aren't any of those. There's a whole realm of unsafeties that women are dealing with, right? Because we're so incredibly medically under-researched, we are dealing with medical unsafety, because we are in a position where this world was made for men by men and still is. There's a whole bunch of political unsafety because of the complex nature of a lot of the dangers that we're facing today are actually emotional dangers, which then become a problem for us on a physical level. We're facing a huge amount of emotional dangers, and it's difficult for men to even accept the fact that emotions are a danger. It's like hard for men to take that seriously, right? But it should be taken very, very seriously, because these emotional elements, of your life are the core of your existence. And so a threat to your emotional life is, many people who have experienced different forms of unsafety will tell you that that's the worst one, right? But then on a physical level, like, women are constantly dealing with sexual dangers. That's a very real physical danger. And it's just really interesting for me because there's so much in this modern world discourse around what a woman can do in order to fend for herself in this world, right? It's like there's a sort of obsession towards raising a daughter to be a woman who can really take care of herself, right? And
independent woman.
Yeah. Oh, I'm completely against this, just so you know. So basically, this emphasis that we have on a woman being able to do this, it's like we have to stop for a minute and think about all the things we're telling a woman to do in order to be able to do that. So we're telling her, go out there and compete in the world with men and in the workforce and fight for your due. And when you get that money, put it away in an account that nobody can touch. Go take a self-defense course. Make sure you're carrying mace around. Don't trust the guy in case you put something in your drink. So when you're going out, you need to make sure to watch your back. I'm taking you down just like a small road of the things that we try to tell a woman to do in order to take care of herself in the world. And what I need us to stop for a second and listen to is, we're not telling a woman, wait a minute, it's a modern day world, you're safe in this world, you don't need to be worrying about these things. No, we're telling her, look at all the dangers that exist, man up to meet them. And then we're like, I wonder what happened to femininity. Like, why are women not soft and open and receptive? Because you're literally turning her into an independent warrior is what. And you're not changing the world to accommodate for a woman, you're telling her how to man up. So, and then we're like, I wonder what happened to femininity. Like, why are women not soft and open and receptive? Because you're literally turning her into an independent warrior is what. And you're not changing the world to accommodate for a woman, you're telling her how to man up. So,
it's it's incredible feeling into, just the view that it's actually the masculine that has so much going on for it, and it's just so oblivious to the world that women are living in many ways. And then simultaneously, there is this women's right, women's empowerment movement. And one of the things that I wanted to really touch base on with you today was you call out women's equality or gender equality has been conflated with gender sameness. And I think that's actually quite a poignant point. Can you unpack that for us here, please?
Yeah. A lot of times when human beings go down the road of wanting equality, they mistake equality for sameness. What that means is it's like we're basically treating the two genders as if they are the same being, as if they have the same needs, as if to set up society for one is to set up the society for the other, and it is to not recognize the fact that masculine and feminine are like two completely drastically different elements. Even though there are similarities between us, there are major differences between us, and so you sort of getting rid of the recognition of the differences in the genders is the road to hell within our human society. Absolutely the road to a living hell. So that needs to be completely undone, right? When we're talking about equality, I hate we're using this word because when we talk about equality, like people already have sameness in their head, and that it's like the equality that is true and real that we should be going for is just the baseline of, look, if you've got a being in front of you, you should be caring about the well-being of the being in front of you. Is what we are doing with that being in its best interests or not? It's that simple. We don't need to make it more complicated, you know? Is it in a being's best interest to not be able to vote for the very system that they live in? Absolutely not. Okay, well then that's a no-brainer. Is it in the best interest of this particular being to have no way to provide for themselves when, especially in the world that doesn't provide for them? No, absolutely not. So that's why we can get in these conversations about fairness in the workplace. I want people to make it very simple by saying, okay, when you have somebody in front of you, I don't care whether it's male or female, I don't care whether it's this race or that race, are we doing what's in the best interest of this being, or are they suffering? Okay, if they're suffering, let's pull them out of it. We don't need to get into a conversation about being the same in order to have that conversation. That should be a conversation we should be having towards all living beings, regardless of whether it's a woman or a dog or a person from another culture from us.
You bring us into this worldview of containment is what men do for women.
Yes.
And I'd like to be introduced to this by you because I've done a little bit of research on it, but I'd love for the audience to step into it here. What do you mean by containment?
Here we go. Containment is the single most important thing that the masculine offers the feminine. Now, I want to take us into a worldview where faster than we do now. That's one of the things that was lost with the women's rights movement.
How so?
Now, okay, you're going to bring me back to containment, right?
Yeah, big time.
Okay, the women's rights movement obviously brought a lot of positive change to what is today. Like, we can't get in an argument about that. We can't, actually. It's not an argument to make unless you go back to the 50s and see all the problems that were there that are no longer there. But the problem is that contrast tends to come with everything. And because so many of the people during the 1960s especially that were pushing for this movement were so incredibly damaged by men, and that's why they joined this movement with so much fervor, there's an element of masculine hatred that is baked into that movement. Whether it was intentional or not doesn't really matter. Because for the vast majority of people, it wasn't intentional. What it is that it was there. Okay, so the fact that there is this hatred of men baked into that movement, a lot of men have grown up in this space where they have been in a position to have an enemy made of their masculinity. It's like your first defense is to be born a male. And so there was a major disownership, a forced disownership, if you will, of incredible masculine qualities. Qualities that women themselves needed. Qualities that were needed for masculine-feminine dynamics especially. One of those was masculine containment. And so when a man lets go of his masculinity, he's like, fine, okay, hands off, like, I get it. You guys have revolted, like, whatever, hands off, right? Men are put in an impossible position too. So it's like we've got we've got many realities going at the same time, but one of these major realities that we've got going is that men have privileges here in this world that they don't recognize. But at the same time, there is a masculinity crisis, and men are in an impossible position as well. So it's not like men are just like, oh, it's groovy and life is made for us. I'm like, hell no. We're in a femininity crisis and a masculinity crisis, and it feels awful to men. Okay, so we basically, as a part of this movement, made men kind of divorce themselves from masculinity, containment being one of the main elements that they divorced themselves from. And it was institutions and governments, essentially, that sought to take away a lot of this containment dynamic. Now, some countries did that much better than other countries. When you look at the government systems in, especially the high-income countries in Europe, there's a high degree of containment that is actually being offered to the women by the governments themselves, which is why a lot of women in those countries don't even realize that they have the need for this, right? Whereas, say, somewhere in America, I don't think America did a good job at all, to be quite frank. Like, America is not, the government really is not of the mentality of let's take care of our people. It's this mentality of like everybody gets to fight for themselves, and if you're poor, you're lazy, and so there's not that infrastructure of containment for the women there, and so there's a higher need, I think, in those countries like that for what the masculine does provide. So let's go into what containment is, shall we?
Please, yeah, thank you.
I think one of the best ways for people to conceptualize of the concept of containment is to think about a clam and a clamshell. So you can compare the feminine to that sort of fleshy part that's inside of a clam, and the masculine to the clamshell. You can see how this is an incredible, intensely symbiotic relationship. You got to pretend that one of them they're both sentient, okay? But it's just, I'm giving you like the best way to sort of conceptualize this. So imagine that both of them are alive, both of them are sentient, and both of them need this kind of symbiosis in order to really, really thrive. So when a man is providing containment, they are providing, they're providing the essence of the clamshell around this fleshy clam part. And what that allows that clam to do is to relax, soften, become super feminine, super open. And in that state of being, it actually is providing the masculine what the masculine needs within the context of that relationship. Now, that idea is the framework for containment. Now we have to go into the individual elements of containment. These are ingredients, right? So one of these ingredients is to put your energy around the female. And by the way, I should say that containment is something that men, plural, offer to women, plural. So it's not like this is something that a man in a monogamous relationships offers to a woman. It's just that's usually the most intense form of containment that you see. A masculine man who's genuinely in his masculinity is going to provide containment for whatever female is around him. Sister, friend, old lady at the store, doesn't matter what it is.
Mother, daughter.
Yeah. It's just obviously the expression of containment is going to be different when you're in a relationship with a woman who you have a sexual relationship with. But these elements of containment are the same. Okay, so the first is you're putting your energy around a woman. Now, this is something that I don't think men have a lot of conscious awareness of them doing. And yet, it's pretty interesting that when you talk to men, and you're like, okay, is there any woman in your life where you feel like you really just can't feel the man she's with on or around her? It's like you can't gauge whether she's in a relationship or not. However, there'd be other women where you're like walking down the street and you just feel it. Like as a man, you just know. That woman's contained. That woman has a dad who's over her. That woman has a man. I can feel him. A lot of that is down to a man just like putting his energy around her. And a lot of men are able to do this without even, it's not like they're having to think about it. But we're very sensitive to that. And, even when I just did a whole e-course on men, right? And this development of mastering masculine containment and things like that. And what I said in that course was that it's not much different than it is with child sex predators, right? They did this experiment where they took child sex predators out of a prison. They took them to the biggest mall in America and they said, we want you to take this Polaroid camera. We want you to go around and we want you to pick the kid who you would target. And what was terrifying is that all of them but one picked the same child. So they were like, what is it about this particular kid? And of course, it's like they have no containment. We can feel that there's no parent on them. We're watching body language. It's like all these markers basically for that person is not positively owned. We're going to get to that in a minute, the positive ownership dynamic. But it's no different with that than it is with people, men being able to sense whether another woman is basically under the care of a man or not. We're sensitive to these types of things. Okay, so second to putting your energy around a person, and by the way, that is not dependent on geographical location. So the next thing is positive ownership. Now these next two ingredients, I should say, this one and the next one to masculine containment, tend to be real trigger words.
I was going to say, this is going to come with a warning.
Yeah, it's going to come with a warning, yeah, because human beings don't like this concept of ownership. But the problem is they've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. Because, even in a context like in business, for example, we'd be like, are you owning the project? Are you actually taking ownership of this company right now? And we understand that, oh yeah, well, a person who takes ownership of the company is somebody who's like, oh, the best interest of this company is my concern and I need to be active and proactive to make sure that the well-being of this particular thing that is in my care is up to par. Now, we need to start to go here, and I'm challenging people in general to really take positive ownership of the people in their life. But this reaches a whole other level of containment. As a man, you need to be taking positive ownership of the woman in your life. So positive ownership means that you consider the best interests of that being as a part of your own best interests. Now, this divorce between one's best interest and the best interest of say, the woman in his life is a big problem that I'm spending so much time going around the world dealing with this issue in relationships, because it's like men are fighting, really, really fighting, for like, how do you know that that's not you just giving too much? I had this moment on stage I gotta tell you about. There was a guy who was sitting next to me and he's like, I'm just afraid that I'm gonna give too much in relationships. How do I know when prioritizing her is just going to be a problem for me? And I said, it's really simple. Is prioritizing her your priority or not? Is she actually your priority? Because if she is, we're not going to be even having this conversation. If she is your priority, then you are not going to feel like you're losing anything in prioritizing her, are you? So basically, what I've got is this condition where, like, men are not really taking ownership, positive ownership of the women in their existence, right?
To quote you, you said, when you take something as part of you to the degree that it belongs with you,
yeah,
it actually becomes a part of you to the degree where you actually can't hurt that thing without also hurting yourself.
That right there is what should make people not afraid. Thank you for going there, because this is what should make people no longer afraid of ownership. Because in the state of positive ownership, you literally cannot go against the best interest of that thing and be okay. Now, so we could say basically that even though men, had ownership over women for centuries in the way that we usually look at ownership, it's this distorted, horrible, like, oh, I possess you and so I don't have to care what's going on with you. I'm just going to treat you like an object.
Manipulation, and all that stuffy.
Yeah, we get, so that is not ownership. That's not positive ownership. So we can, by definition, say those men who technically had ownership of these women were not displaying ownership towards those women. So in the state of positive ownership, the very things which people are afraid about relative to ownership do not occur. So positive ownership, very, 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 very important element of containment, right? That next element that needs to be factored into the picture of containment is actually to take responsibility for the well-being of a woman. Now, this makes people very, very anxious and very, very upset, because people don't really enjoy the idea of having to be responsible for somebody else, especially in this day and age. I will tell you that if we went back in time to look at our forefathers, the concept of even having a conversation like we're having today, where it's even in question that we should be taking responsibility for each other, is out of this planet. That should tell you just how bizarre of a world we are living in today.
Gone a bit astray, haven't we?
Like way. There were all kinds of problems with the past. It's not like I'm not one of these people who's going to just turn you towards the past and be like, everything was better then. No, I'm not one of those people, but we have definitely lost touch in very serious ways, and we've become more divided, more separated. We've been put under the illusion of independence, even though the very people who are talking about independence are completely dependent on the system to the degree where if it collapsed, they wouldn't have any idea how to survive. Okay, so that's just how much of an illusion independence is here. We should be taking responsibility for each other's well-being as people. I'm not going to ever be one of these people who stands on a stage and tells people, you need to take 100% responsibility for yourself. There's nobody that affects you, blah, blah. It's like absolutely ridiculous. I'm really having a hard time even having this conversation. Like, it's that level of ridiculous. For men, taking responsibility for the woman's well-being is something that is very, very important. It's to say that your well-being is my concern. It's my concern. And so I'm going to do whatever is within my power to be an ally and an advocate for your well-being, rather than telling you to fend for yourself. Now, this is where we get into this juicy word, fending, because a lot of this kind of concept of containment and the separate ingredients can become difficult for men to really understand. They can simplify it by saying, fend for a woman. Okay? A woman should not be out there having to fend for herself, period, the end. So as a man, you want to be thinking, how could I be fending for her in this minute? How could I be fending for her in that minute? And kind of walking around with that attitude of to fend for her. Now, fending is actually the thing that women are obsessing over when they're watching these shows that they absolutely love. You know, if I was a man, I would be like really studying these films that women can't get enough of. But when you do that, you very quickly see that the male characters that every woman is swooning over is the male character who is fending.
And is it just physical?
Like, no, hell no. No, to fend can be across the board in all kinds of different scenarios. Oh man, I'm sorry, but I sort of smile because it's just really funny because so many women also have this resistance to this idea of anybody taking responsibility for their well-being because, of course, women have been cultured in this world where to really be taken seriously and, you know, to have all these positive things that we're wanting to have, we can't want these things. And yet the very same woman who sort of fights for being an independent female who's worthy of respect in today's world is the very woman who's like, you know, with the popcorn, like, oh my God, Mr. Darcy. Yeah, it's fending. Okay. So, did you want to say anything about that before we go to the next ingredient or no?
Well, yeah, I had this very interesting interaction just at the supermarket the other day where I was walking along, there was this lady, she was quite, like, she was young, yeah, maybe 16, 17, something like that. And she was walking around with, like, her arms were overflowing. She'd picked too many things off the shelf. And she was just walking along, and I've done that to myself quite a few times, right? And I could totally like empathize with her situation. And I just picked up a basket and I was walking along and I was like, oh, you need a basket. Here's a basket. And I was watching because I'm a meditator, I get meta sometimes, right? So I got meta on the situation. I could see her processing the act of kindness as so incredibly foreign. And then I was like, oh, this act of kindness is actually making it really awkward for her. But this is just a normal thing to do, I'm pretty sure. But maybe I should be a little bit more understanding that men don't just walk around offering help to women anymore, you know? And it's like, oh, wow, you're a bit old school, Amrit. And it's like, I'm old, like, it got a bit weird. And in that moment, but then afterwards she was like, she felt my intention obviously was just to like, dude, like, here's some help. And she took the basket and she was very you know, very grateful for it. And I just remember it just raised its head in that conversation when we were talking about like in society, men are walking around and it's like a collective thing that we're actually doing for each other. It's like, hey, caring about each other's well-being shouldn't be as foreign and as odd. And it's in those little micro moments that it's just like, dude, something's going to fall. Like, here, I can help you out, you know, and it doesn't, yeah, it just, that came to me in that moment when you were sharing it. Because
that's an actual example of a man who's displaying containment in his everyday environment that doesn't have anything to do with him being in a primary relationship.
Touch wood. Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to share that in there because it just reared its head when you were sharing about responsibility.
No, I love that you shared it because this is never change, okay? This is where men need to go. And, you know, I would love to have the reality be that we live in this world where, you know, women are just kind of waiting around, hoping that you guys will wake up one day and get it. Unfortunately, the landscape of our world is a lot more complicated than that, and I am very aware that by going as deeply into teaching men what I am teaching them about how to interact with women, I am teaching them to be ahead of where women currently are. Women are not going to be in a space to walk men into this and congratulate them. They have been traumatized by men. And even the women who are not directly traumatized by men, of which there are so few, it's ridiculous, they have been raised in a society that has cultured them to believe that all of the things that wonderful things that men are doing is an insult to their capacities. So the reality right now is I need men to never stop doing what you're doing. And if they're not doing it, to start changing so that they start doing it. And to put women in a position to have a different experience. Not to back off and be like, oh, this isn't okay for you, but to be like, all right, I really need to be a part of the picture of rehabilitating women towards masculine containment. Yeah, it's not going to be an easy road because women are deeply traumatized by this.
Yeah, well, there was going to be a question I was going to ask a little bit later. So I'll let you continue and then I'll ask you a question about it, because the question is, for women that don't want to be contained. There's a big question in there. I don't know if I should insert it now or address it later, because I don't want to slow your roll. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to continue with the ingredients, right?
Please, yeah.
Okay, so the next ingredient is going to be attunement and understanding. You've got to be deeply, deeply attuned to the woman in your life, and she's sending cues all day long. Like, women are really, they're pretty funny to me. Women are sending cues all day. Like, if you just pay attention to what to her body language and blah, 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 right? You've got to be extremely attuned to her and understanding of her. And this is something that I think most men are not actually doing, right, with women, which makes very little sense. Because for the average man, let's say that a man's interested in kite surfing, right? That guy's going to go balls deep on kite surfing. He's obsessing over it. He's watching all kinds of videos on it. He's, it's like... It's like he's gone down a rabbit hole where he's so obsessed with learning about it that he's going to become the absolute master of it. And yet men don't do that with the women in their lives. They don't do it with women in general, plural, and they're certainly not doing it with the individual woman that walks into their life. You should be becoming a master on the very thing that is in your care. That's how you know best how to respond with that specific woman. And even though there's lots of things like ways we can generalize about women are also totally different, right? It's going to be different containing one versus containing the other, and you're only going to know what correct things to do when you deeply, deeply understand her. Okay, so the next ingredient is going to be responsiveness. And this is somewhere that men around the globe, I have noticed, chronically fail, actually, is in this responsiveness dynamic. When a woman is giving you cues, and especially when she is talking to you directly, there needs to be a kind of responsiveness to what she is doing and what she is saying. You can't exist in your own kind of narcissistic bubble guessing about her. One of the most common things that I see working with couples who are in a male-female dynamic is that you've got the woman who, says something like, I've got an issue in our relationship. I'm not happy with this. And he's just like, she's just on her period. It's going to come around. He tells himself a story. There's a lack of responsiveness to it or something, right? Or, and then it's like she has no option but to escalate. So a level 2 comment goes to a level 5. Now at level 5, she's really pissy. And, she's sort of picking an argument with him about something that pertains to this particular issue that she has. At which point, he tells another story to himself about the situation that has nothing to do with what's really going on. Something like, I know that you're saying the relationship is good, but actually, babe, our relationship's fine. It really is. Like, let me tell you how our relationship's fine. And this continues. It literally continues to the point where a woman, I've seen it over and over again with men and women, the woman gets to this point where she's like, I literally have there's nowhere to escalate anymore. Like, maybe there's an explosion. Maybe you're with a woman who really, like, when we were talking a level 11 fight, she's throwing plates at you. Who the hell knows, right? But at this level 11 type of escalation, then all of a sudden the man goes, my God, she's hysterical. She can't be taken. She need a therapist. Maybe she's got hormone problems. Okay, so there's this lack of responsiveness dynamic which cannot happen within the space of containment, because in the space of containment, obviously, you're taking positive ownership, you're taking responsibility for the well-being, and there needs to be this deep attunement and a responsiveness to what you're perceiving in the other. And when men learn to do this, when shit's real small, it's amazing what changes in the relationship.
When I think of masculine and feminine, I sort of, maybe I grew up too Indian, but we've got Kali Ma is like, these divine symbols of the sacred feminine. Is like there's always a feminine symbolized by elements of chaos, and the masculine symbolized by Brahma as like, symbols of order. And it's interesting because what you're inviting in there is responsiveness for order to meet chaos in some ways, right? Whereas just kind of going, it's chaotic, and just going, where? It's chaotic, but sort of going, hey, there's chaos. But yes, your divine structure is also order, and, respond accordingly, this is where you get the opportunity to meet the other.
Women are always responding to something. Like, this is something that men need to understand. By the way that they are created, like you can talk about the element of that, which is a female, it is extraordinarily responsive. That's part of what is happening in the changeability of females. They're responding to what was said by this person at work. They're responding to the way the room feels. They're responding to the way that their own body is behaving. They're literally responding all day long. So it's like, as a man, if you get your finger on the pulse of whatever she's responding to, then it's very quick. It's very easy actually to get out ahead and to instead give her something to respond to. Now, this is when I'm sort of laughing my ass off about this because it's going to be a later point here, right? Creating or managing the situation. It's going to be one of the elements of containment, right? Because, a man himself has to be responsive. Let's get off that point. But what you really want to do as a man is to create and control the situation, whatever it is, so as to give the woman something to respond to in a way that you want her to respond. So when we're watching these Instagram reels where it's like, you've got the woman who's like, I don't like you anymore. I don't like this relationship. Everything's not going right for me. And he brings her food. And you know those ones, right? It's like the classic thing. It's like really funny reels. And then she's
I love it. They're just shoving it straight into the mouth as well.
Yeah. That's a perfect example of when a man creates and controls something for the woman to respond to. Women are so responsive.
Can't believe we just went there, by the way. Love it. Please continue. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just go there. I listed this as the last ingredient, but we're going to use it right now. So creating and controlling the situation. What you just said about one of the key offerings for masculinity is to kind of come into situations and to take leadership of them. Now that's taking ownership of the situation itself, of the environment. And a lot of men kind of sit here almost passively like, I don't know what to do to make this woman, be in a state that I enjoy. It's like a guy just sits there kind of completely powerless to the whole damn situation. And that is not a masculine behavior, right? The masculine behavior is to come in and to deliberately create the situation so as to get the response and reaction that he's wanting and needing from a female. And to why we say managing the other situations, sometimes there are situations that a man's not creating, it's just happening. Like, the woman's got a fight with a friend, right? That's not a situation he created, but there can be some management of that situation. So when he's coming in and creating and managing the situation, that containment element is there in a way that makes a female blossom and bloom in the way that he's fed by the relationship.
Sorry. I'll let you go. Sorry, I could tell I keep. I was going to double click on the point of passivity as being a toxic thing that men are really carrying at this time.
This has got to be a whole other thing. Let's do the ingredients.
Okay, I'll let you go. And then we'll do the passivity thing after. Yeah.
Okay, so the next ingredient is to provide safety and security. This is a no-brainer. This is literally like the primary thing that. The primary function of a clamshell with a clam is the same as the primary function of masculine containment with feminine. It is the answer to this dynamic that I was describing. Women are constantly living in this kind of state of fear, right? Now, with that safety and security being provided by the masculine, what happens is a woman goes soft, a woman gets very receptive. She starts to create. It's like anything you put into a woman actually doubles, triples. So this is where you start to see the energy flowing out of her towards you, towards the world, towards everything. So to provide safety and security on all these different levels, it's not just to make sure that she's not, when you're walking down the street, make sure you get on the side that's, close to the road. It's those types of things you get on a physical level. Men get that. But it's also, providing safety on an emotional level. It's providing safety from yourself. It's making absolutely sure that you are not the one in her life that is creating the pain for her. Now that's a space that I feel like a lot of men need a lot of work, because there are some men that are damn good at creating a containment dynamic from the world, but then they themselves sort of go into that space they've created and become the issue for her. Okay, so the next one is to support and be available. Availability for a woman is very, very important. Like, if I'm in masculine, it's very important for me, right? For the woman in my life to know I'm available to you. Like, you need to know that this thing that you depend on in me is there. So what happens when you really give a woman that impression? I am prioritizing you. I am available to you. And I am a support for you in your life. It calms a woman down and actually creates a space and a buffer for a huge degree of autonomy. The women who are clinging and doing this at a man are not getting that. They're getting a man who's like trying to set boundaries with the very thing that he is containing. Like pushing her away. You push somebody away in a relationship and it's a reverse dynamic. It decreases the security in the relationship, and therefore the person can tolerate less autonomy and less space. Okay, so the next ingredient is providing structure, direction, and leadership. This is some of those juicy things that you are already going towards that masculine provides. Masculine comes into this flowy nature of a female. An alternative way of thinking about containment is to think about this like bowl that's holding water. The man comes in and creates kind of structure for which the female to flow. And also direction in that. And leadership is a big part of that. Now, it's one thing that's very important for men to understand and for the world to shift their attitude towards is that we've got this mentality that the relationship is uniquely feminine, and therefore the female should be leading the relationship. And it's not true, actually. It's the masculine that should be leading the relationship. So, and that even dovetails with creating and managing the situation, because it is the man really, based off of deeply understanding and knowing the female, it's the man in the situation that should actually be saying, okay, based on me knowing this woman so well, based on me knowing myself, this is my vision for this relationship, and I'm going to lead us towards it. He's out in front of the whole damn thing. Now, it's at this point that I'm going to have to give you a history lesson, because this is something that like people need to really get what I'm about to say here, because we are so far off right now, so far off, and thinking we're so far on, because we ourselves don't understand the manufactured nature of the destruction of this dynamic between males and females. Okay, so men, let's look back way in the day, right? If you look all the way back, men were really, really strongly out in the lead. So this attitude that relationships are a woman's sphere and that emotions are a woman's sphere is very, very, very new. So is emotion. So let's talk about emotions in men for a minute. Men, back in antiquity, right, in ancient days, the showing of emotions and things like that, they were not considered feminine at all. What you saw in old scripts and old culture is that heroes, when they openly wept, there was no issue with this. That was seen as an extraordinary mark of character. Men who displayed emotion, it wasn't like a relationship that people had to men displaying emotion and not being able to be an upstanding man within society. So another way of putting this is that there was no relationship between a man displaying emotions and dropping containment, for example. That's why kings could openly weep and go into erupt in rage, like all the whole spectrum of emotions. And at the same point, they were the ones leading the relationships in their lives. Now, did they always lead it well? No, hell no. I mean, you had kings that were like, I'm deciding how this relationship's going to go. I'm telling you what it's going to be, whether you like it or not. That's not good leadership of a woman, but it's still like I'm leading the relationship, right? So this is where things start to get funky, actually, is in the 18th century. Now, I need people really to understand this because it sounds like it's a long time ago. But in the spectrum of history, it is literally yesterday. It is yesterday. Okay, in the 1800s, what you see is this huge expansion where people are building empires, and all of a sudden military is what is needed. And so there's an emphasis on military discipline at this time. Now, military called for the suppression of emotions. That was the first place where men were kind of expected, where this image, it's kind of like the image of the stoic man was really manufactured, honestly, in the 18th century. But even then, in the 18th century, there was a lot that was written about, about sort of the upstanding character of a man of feeling. That's the way that they used to put it. If a man was a man of feeling, he openly displayed his emotions. That was not seen as a detriment to his masculinity. Neither was him being in a relationship and, leading the relationship, blah, blah, blah. This is where things really go down. 19th century, you have the Industrial Revolution. Now, what I need people to really grasp mentally is that we lived in community. We worked in community. It was a brand new thing for a man to go away from his family to a workplace where now all of a sudden the career is divorced from the community. That's brand new. Now, this is where things got funky because there was a relationship in businesses between productivity and a man who would control and suppress his emotional state. So it started to be, you leave your emotions at home, you leave your relationship at home. Uh-oh. Well, what's happening at the exact same time is we're creating this divorce between the community and the workplace, and therefore men and their place of living. Private life and work life are being divided at this point. Brand new concept, okay? What happens is that the females get put in the home. Now all of a sudden there's two spheres in which males and females need to exist. And the female sphere is the sphere where men leave their emotions and the sphere of relationship. Now all of a sudden, emotions are branded female, relationships are branded female. And men are divorced from both. And it's at that point that men go, women are the leaders of everything that is the home. That means emotions, that means relationships. Uh-oh. Now we're sitting here today talking about this. Even very awakened spiritual people don't understand how programmed they are around this. And it's a brand new concept that basically was embedded in culture with the Industrial Revolution. It has nothing to do with the reality of masculine and feminine and their relationship with each other. At all. If men are disconnected from their emotions, they're disconnected from an entire aspect of information. They're disconnected from so much that they literally can't walk through the world in a state where they know what's going on. If I take you to go see the hunter-gatherer tribes that are walking around today with a lot of these, they're talking about masculine. Okay, a lot of these men who are out there in these hunter-gatherer tribes, they are relying on every cue, including what's happening through their emotional body. To shut themselves off from that entire feedback mechanism is to not be able to track that thing they're tracking. It's to not get what's going on. So it's extraordinarily dangerous for us to perpetuate this idea that for a man to be disconnected from his emotional state is natural. It's dangerous for us to perpetuate the idea that that is a healthy thing for a man in any way, shape, or form, masculine. Or especially that it is not masculine. I'm sick of this crap in the spiritual field where it's like, get in touch with your feminine emotional side. Shut up. Emotions have literally nothing to do with masculine, feminine. Nothing. It's an information feedback system, period, the end. Okay, so we've got that right going, which is very, very dangerous and very, very upsetting, and it's got me really going, but it's important to basically come back to the fact that men need to lead the relationship. Mm-hmm. They need to stop telling themselves a story that relationship is the sphere of the female. It's not. I'm sorry, you're a byproduct of the Industrial Revolution. And relationships go very well when a man starts leading the relationship.
Starts taking a bit of charge.
Oh, I wish that all men would start taking tango lessons as well, because it shows you a lot of what is the energy that a man needs to be in order to actually have a good relationship. He's got to take the lead, but in order to take the lead, you can't just go dance your own dance. You've got to be highly responsive to the thing you're leading.
Yeah, I was reflecting on when I went to the Masai Mara in Africa. There was this, in the West, there's also some parts of expression for men are also not, like men don't sing or, things like that. And you could see that in tribal culture, it's like, listen to his voice. You know, and it was like, he's like, there was like a celebration around the authentic expression of singing, dancing, culture for the man. And I was laughing because I was actually birds of the forest sort of came to mind. I went to a David Attenborough thing in my mind, which was like watching the men, how they're like actually more colourful. Like we've got king parrots here in Australia. I don't know if you know them. And my wife had gotten them the wrong way around. She was like, "Oh, that's the pretty one. That's the female." And I was like, "No. He's got to get her, so he's the pretty one, actually." And it's true, the king parrots, the red and the green, is like way more vibrant in colours than the female. Anyway, just to your point.
Well, those are the basic elements of containment.
Yeah. It's I want to bring that question back in that I had before, because I do wonder, there are definitely, I mean, I can feel what you do, like what you're sharing here is like, yes, the pendulum has swung a little bit too hard and too fast the other way, and there is, like you said earlier, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There is going to be people listening to this podcast going, that's not for me. Like I'm a woman that doesn't need containment. Your response to that?
My response to that is actually, I have never met one in my entire life. When you sit down with a woman who says, I don't want containment, I don't need containment, what you have is a history of trauma. You have a woman who associates especially ownership dynamics with torture. So what it is a response to pain. It's a trauma response. That's not, I don't want containment. That's, I associate containment with painful things, and so it is less painful for me to do all of this kind of independence dance for myself. Okay, well, that's where a woman essentially has to be in this position to choose whether she's going to spend her whole life pushing against and avoiding this thing because of all the negative associations that she has with it. And that's where I'm putting like men in this position of like, of course they have free will. Women have free will. You can go ahead. Go do it yourself. If you really want to go make that choice, go do it yourself. But I don't want women who are this exception, right? Who aren't really an exception, okay? I don't want women who are this exception to make it so that men drop this in general. Because it is the dropping of this in general that have created women like that. Do you get that? Like a woman does not have if you look at the elements of actual containment, no woman actually hates that. Like if I really broke it down, if I said, listen to me, would you like it if the person in your life, your partner, actually took responsibility for your well-being? No woman's going to be like, no, I would hate it. I would absolutely hate that. I would like him to take no responsibility whatsoever for the way I feel. Right? If I said, would you like your partner to be really deeply attuned and understand you? Nobody's going to be like, no, I would like them to be completely unattuned and not understand me at all. Like if I start to break down all of these ingredients, like every person wants that.
Yeah, but
every
they're not
woman
super.
Wants that.
Yeah, but they may not be super aware of it if that is what they want. And so one of the things that you're inviting men into, and maybe this is why you're saying I'm calling upon men to step in, because a little bit further ahead, because yeah, the invitation that I'm hearing in this is, even if a woman says to a man that I don't want to be contained, it is incumbent upon you to maintain your stance to contain.
Exactly. So yeah, so as a man, let's say I'm a man in a relationship with a woman who's like this, who has got, it's something specific she's pushing against. So for me to provide good quality containment for that particular woman looks like figuring out what it is she's pushing against. And then me accommodating for that, whatever that issue is, and a rehabilitation process around things. For me to accommodate for that specific woman is for me to be containing that woman. So it's like, even if all you're doing is, if you're dealing with a woman who's got a lot of pushback on a lot of these things, or even let's say one of my favorites, right? I got a good example. Yes, okay. So what in this e-course, one of the things that I said that men need to really get about women is that, you always love to hear this thing that women are like, okay, why can't you just listen to me? I don't really need you to just do anything. I just need you to listen. And it's actually total BS. It's total BS. There's a real reason for it. Would you like me to break it down? Okay,
please.
But bring me back to how this applies to women who are the exception. Okay. Okay. So the reason that women say, "Why can't you just listen to me?" is because men have this tendency to jump, and that's to bypass a lot of what is going on in a situation, especially the emotional content. Now, a woman wants to process with others. Men have systematically been put in a position where they can't process with others. Like when little boys are trying to process, which is a natural human behavior, when they're trying to process as a little kid, we put the pressure back on little boys emotionally, mentally, and so they learn to go in a cave. They learn to go in a cave and not process with others. Women aren't really put in the same position. So we learn from a very young age, like, we're going to process how we feel and what we're thinking and everything, and so as to make a decision, so as to solve the problem in a certain way. So we're looking to co-process, and that's what we're trying to do with men. But what we're wanting is for a man to really listen to everything, to really grasp the whole situation before he jumps to some kind of a solution. And women do want men to do something. That's the lie that you guys are being told. So it's like, I'm sorry, I feel sorry for men. Women are kind of in the space where we're filling you up with rhetoric that we don't want you to step in. No, we actually do, provided that when you're stepping in, it's in the right way. And that's not going to happen unless you get all the information. Hence why we're like, listen to me. Okay, but let's say that you have a woman who grew up in a situation which, this is actually the rarity, FYI.
This is the exception. Okay, yep.
Yeah, the exception to the rule in this situation is a woman who's been raised in a way where she's never been allowed to grow. She's, usually based on being a female, she's put in a position of like total powerlessness where she can't ever feel the sort of empowerment of her being able to do anything. So there's a capability wound. This type of woman sometimes would like to be like, yes, I can basically take this action and make this decision myself so as to bring something about. And it makes her be able to see her own empowerment, basically. It can be very healthy. It can be very healthy for women who have that background. Not that I had to fend for myself person. That I was disempowered around being able to do anything. And so this is empowering for me to see that I can. When you've got that type of a woman, providing good quality containment for that woman is to say, okay, is this a situation that you would like me to get involved in directly? Or is this a situation you would like to do yourself? And if she says, yeah, I'd like to do it myself, then it's like, okay, just know that I'm here if you want me to step in at any point. And that's not you removing containment. It's containing that woman because that specific woman wants to learn to grow in this way.
And that's where the listening comes back in, right? Because it's not just listening to the words, it's like an attunement back to what you were saying before. Like that's the listening. It's like tuning to the entire environment that is, the clamshell and the pearl once again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so why am I saying this? Because when we're encountering women who don't want containment, you're not going to drop your containment. You're going to have to make the way that you offer containment accommodate for the whatever it is that they're having an issue with.
Yeah, zoom out, wrap your arms around, put your energy around her wider. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say that let's say I'm a man, right? And I'm dealing with a female who's like, I'm never going to be okay with my finances being in your control. Fuck it. I want my own stuff. I need my own account. Okay, so if I'm a man and I'm containing a woman like that, I know this is a woman who's so deeply traumatized, she actually needs the experience that she can have those things. And it's not going to impact me being here for her or providing for her. This is the type of woman where, as me, I'm going to set up an account for her. I'm going to say, yes, okay. If this is what you need to feel safe, this is me providing you safety. I'm going to give you an out to this relationship. I'm not stepping back.
Can I segue from stepping back into passivity? Because you mentioned that that's like a real, can we go there?
Oh man. Okay. So passiveness.
Appreciate you.
Passiveness is literally the way to kill your masculinity. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Masculine energy is a forward-moving, directed energy. It is the exact opposite of passivity. So when I'm a passive person, a passive male, what I'm going to do is to get in the back seat of life experience, back seat of the relationship. I'm going to let other people do it, let other people take responsibility for it. I'm going to look for leadership. I'm not going to step up and be proactive and take action. I'm certainly not going to take charge. Passiveness will destroy you as a man. Absolutely destroy your life. It is not something that is an option for a man in his life. When it comes to containment, there is no possible way for you to offer containment and be passive. The energy of being passive is a complete antagonist to putting your energy around her, positively owning the thing, taking responsibility for a person's well-being, to really throw yourself into understanding and attuning, to be responsive. You see, these are all very engaged energies. Passiveness is a disengaged energy. You cannot do it. So as a man, it's like you've got to constantly be trying to, get out of the passive energy and into the proactive energy. And for a lot of men, this passive behavior is actually a protector persona. Now, this is the thing. Remember, let's circle back to this whole thing about the negative repercussions of the women's rights movement, is that so many men were trained to be passive. Passiveness was the only way they felt they could stay safe within this society and within the home that they were in. So passiveness is a defense strategy. But it's sucking them clean of energy, and that's something that men need to really get about themselves, is that, those car batteries is like the thing I can compare it to. There's car batteries where they charge when you drive it, right?
Hybrids.
That is men.
Yeah. Kinetic energy.
That is men. Men gain energy when they are putting energy forward. They gain energy when they're active rather than passive. Being passive, it's going against your own energy, actually, and so it steals energy from men like crazy. When men are dealing with this extreme levels of fatigue, that's a passive guy. That's a guy who trained himself into restraint. So, I mean, if I'm ever doing, courses or events in the future for men, this is going to be a big element that I'm baking into it. It's like creating scenarios where men do not have to be holding themselves back, so that they can learn to bring that their energy is not a problem, to bring that energy forward and to actually channel it towards something.
I can sort of see a vicious cycle though, because if a man doesn't have the opportunity to contain and be met in his containment and allow that to be received, a natural sort of repercussion would be to fall into passive behaviors. And then from there, I can see a vicious cycle being where it's more passivity leads to more passivity, leads to more passivity, and less containment, less containment, less containment, less containment.
Yep. So what do you want me to say about that?
I don't know. Is that where we've ended up? Is that what we're looking at around us to some degree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you get a man who is in a situation where his containment is being received and he can see in the response. It's not like he needs somebody to turn around to him and be like, this is really great. You can feel it as a man when what you are bringing into a relationship or into the world, into any type of setting, is something that is being taken in. And by virtue of being taken in, is creating a positive improvement in the situation. You can see it on the person's reaction. You can see it in the faces that you are valued for what you're doing. It naturally feeds him in such a way that it's like setting a man free. And yes, we live in a world right now that is the exact opposite of this. However, I still need guys to get that we do live in a complicated world right now that's, this post kind of feminist thing that's been happening, and it's made things complicated, but women are still highly responsive. And I'm telling you, it will shock you when you start to get yourself to display containment in ways. Watch how responsive people will be, because it will actually surprise you. It really will. how much it's like this is what people don't know they're needing.
So I wanted to ask that about leaning into containment, like meeting yourself in the ingredient, in each of the ingredients, like showing up and sort of, is it like, what's the fundamental thing that I think there's a bit of a mindset like click in there that is actually one of the first things is like to go from passive to active.
Yes.
Is that like a pretty fundamental piece here, or is there some like next steps for men containment?
Actually, the most fundamental piece is ownership. It's like, you can think of it very easily, actually, taking it outside of the realm of the relationship and just think about, okay, as a person, what would it take for me to shift my energy towards the environment? Well, I'd have to take ownership of it. I have to be like, you know what? This planet is a planet that I live on. It is mine. It is my home. And because I see this as my home, I see it as my responsibility to act in favor of its well-being. Now, that mentality shift towards the environment makes it so that I'm now the person who picks up trash when I go to the beach rather than leaves it there. I'm now the person who makes the right decisions for the environment versus the wrong decisions for the environment. Maybe I'm electing different officials. My vote goes in a different direction. I mean, it's like everything is governed by that mentality shift towards taking ownership of the world in which we live. And it's no different with people around you. Now we can just take it into relationships. The first mentality shift is actually positive ownership. I started harping on this actually a long time before I started really going in this direction with masculine containment. Yeah, but I mean, obviously that's second step. The thing is that passivity really comes second to positive ownership because positive ownership implies some kind of proactivity. You can't sit there and see something suffering and be like...
Gives you a why, gives you a mission statement to drive towards. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's very, sort of getting out of passiveness is very actionable for men. Even if it's like, get up and move your body. That's one of the things that I even, when I'm working with men, will have them do. Get up and move your body. And like, push yourself into like really like sports level activity. Watch what happens. That's just moving your body. That's not really being proactive towards your relationship, but it does put men in a much more proactive mentality, and it makes them feel more empowered towards the world.
Starts to cultivate the right kind of energy. There's, I was hoping you'd help me clear something up in my head, if that's okay. Good luck. No, sorry. Sorry. Good help. But in the Kabbalah, we have the feminine actually represented by a circle and the masculine represented by a straight line. And it's like this sacred geometry. And when I first started to dive deeper onto your like containment, it really started to make a lot of sense to me. But that was at one of these fundamental places where I was like, oh, I just hope I can get that reconciled with in my conversation with Teal, because containment, you say, is natural for the masculine, but also in my mind, a container, maybe I've been to too many Tupperware parties, is kind of like a circle. It seems feminine. You know, a womb is a container, right? It's something that a woman carries. So I have, this sort of like a circle, container, feminine, you know, whereas the Kabbalah symbolizes masculine with a line and feminine with a circle. Can you help me in and around there a little bit? Because I know, you've got your symbol as well, and there's some, I know you understand shapes and objects.
It's more like looking at the basic sort of energy movement within the universe that is masculine and feminine, right? Masculine would be that it's more like an arrow. It's... right? The energetic movement of a feminine is curved lines, right? So it's not that like containment in and of itself is something that a woman will never do, right? And nor is it right that, say, a man will never be in a state of flow. It's kind of like the yin-yang symbol. You've got like a tiny bit in each. Now, you could say that the woman's womb is essentially providing containment for that child. But watch what happens when there's no masculine containment around a pregnancy.
Yeah. One of my...
You know that they did all this research? This is the most depressing research you will ever read in your life, by the way. Because as a woman, I'm sorry, you just don't want to be dependent in this way. You just don't. It's like, this is part of why we're fighting against it. You don't want to feel this dependent on anything.
The vulnerability.
Yeah. Single biggest predictor of good parenting for a woman is what?
Oh, I can see where this is going.
The answer
good
is a
partner.
presence. Yes. The answer is a presence of a male partner.
Yeah, I was quite fortunate where touch wood. I'm not sure if I'm meant to announce this to the world in this podcast, but anyway, we're about to. There's another bun in the oven. World. Touch wood. You heard it here first. Touch wood. Yeah, so.
But it's so exciting for you.
Yeah, I know. Father of 3. What is actually going on? Anyhow, that's like a whole nother podcast in itself. But one of the things that a very dear brother of mine, he actually makes hand pans, which is a beautiful instrument. Anyway, I'm digressing slightly. And he became a father before I did, and another really conscious brother. And he had this conversation with me, and he was like, "You really want to be a hands-on dad? I can see it in you." And I was like, "Yeah, I really do." And he pulled out this piece of paper and he goes, "You think it's mother, father, child, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, fuck yeah." Like when she's not going to be able to do stuff, like I'm going to be there and I'm going to like swoop in and I'm going to like change nappies and all this sort of stuff. And he goes, "Bro, let me just tell you now, this was when I was first pregnant. We were first pregnant, sorry." He goes, that's not it. And like, I hate to disappoint because he had that model in his mind as well. Mother, father, child. And he goes, as soon as, like, it was so heartbreaking because the child just wants the mother in so many ways. There's just things that the father just can't do that the mother can do. And you keep trying to interject yourself and it's not your place. And he goes, the realization he had for himself was it's actually concentric circles. It's child, mother, father.
Yes, exactly.
And when he described that to me, it was one of the best pieces of wisdom I got offered becoming a father, because I realized my job was actually to make sure that, like, it sounds a bit 3D, but to make sure we had grocery stock, to make sure nappies were in the house, make sure we had baby wipes, make sure we had enough milk, make sure we had, like, just make sure we had bottles whitewashed. Like, it was just the things to make sure that she was capacitated to do the things that she needed to do for the child. And that was the masculine way to sort of hold space for the dynamic for the child in those early stages, touch wood.
Yep. Exactly. And then children naturally reach a stage where they shift more towards, especially when they're much more interested in play, they start to shift towards the father, and then the father is the one who essentially says, "Okay, child of mine, I'm the one that's going to take you into the world."
Yeah. It's we learn a lot through these dynamics, and I think it's interesting that we're having this conversation, and it seems so, in some ways, touch wood, it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers, as you know, as we both know, and it's surprising that it's going to do that, in some ways, because masculine feminine dynamics, it's like we really need to take a moment to slow down, to shine a light, have this unpacking conversation. Like, you've even brought in elements of history where we kind of did go astray, and holding a light for the future and inviting men into certain spaces. When it's interesting because masculine and feminine dynamics are so fundamental to the way that we're navigating society. Like 50% of us generally are men and 50% of us are women. And yet we aren't having conversations like this, which is a significant deal in terms of how half of the world interacts with the other half of the world. And to your point before, containment's not just about intimacy.
No.
Yeah. Teal, you've put together an entire e-course as a book that's dedicated to this as well. I'll link them into the show notes below for people that want to dive in deeper. It's anything else that you wanted to recommend as resources in regards to this topic in this space?
Yeah, this is why I did this, is because there just isn't. It's really sad. There just isn't a lot out there for men, especially, and therefore for women. I'm sort of joking about this because this e-course is something I made for men, but it's really for women too. I don't know of other resources right now. That's what I'm trying to basically compile and trying to become aware of and trying to piece together, so that even when this e-course is released, I do have kind of like a whole template for people to be able to draw on. Maybe groups for men, I'm probably going to be doing a hell of a lot more videos myself through my YouTube channels on this masculine, feminine stuff. Maybe one thing that people would like to know about is what exactly is this e-course about, you know? So primarily the first part of this e-course I decided to make about masculine containment. So make about these ingredients. I kind of did a flyby of them today, but this goes in depth into each one and the practical application of each one. So what I'm trying to help men to do is to master each element of containment in their own life, so that it's no longer, containment's no longer this concept they really understand the how-to, right? The next part of this whole picture is what I call the game changers, which are these things that men need to understand about women that will completely change the game in terms of the way that they relate to them. And I think there's like 16 of these game changers that I put in there. But they literally, it's like they have the capacity to completely turn relationships around. It's, you know, even just like, you know, one of them is something that I've seen make a relationship completely go from like the abyss to, oh, now all of a sudden it's a great relationship. So you get 16 of these and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I understand how to interact with women now, right? Which is why ultimately we ended up naming this e-course. I think we named it the Mastering Masculinity in Relationships. How to be the man that she can't live without, right? Because the whole concept, so many men are so interested in like how to be the guy, you know? And this is my frustration, is that out there in the world, you've got so many, oh my God, so many men who are like, you know, how to get a woman, how to make it so that she wants you so bad that she can't stand it. And it's just like this disgusting game, right?
One of the game changers is dispelling the myth that women like assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what I was wanting to do is to give men a template for, like, really honestly, like, this is what women are looking for. This is why they're looking for it. Now you're no longer confused. I'm going to dispel all of the confusion, and you're going to be in a space where you know exactly how to be the type of a guy that no woman can live without. You know, like, you know, not just the best sex she ever had guy, the best relationship of my life guy, the guy who she really, like, who she's turning into the woman you want, right? Because, I mean, women are highly responsive, and the reality is if you start behaving in these types of ways, you've got exactly the things you're wanting in that female. You've got the qualities that all men are just, like, desperate for. You're feeling received by her. You can see it in her face that you have a place in her life. She's soft, this soft, receptive energy towards you. Those feminine energies of nurturing are coming towards you. I'm giving guys the template for how to get it. You no longer have to sit there and be like, I wish I could find a woman who, fill in the blank. You can actually put a woman there if you want to.
Inspired Soul Lumen beings are obviously enjoying this video, so please do give it a thumbs up and a like and join us in the conversation. What are you taking away from today's conversation? We'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and leave your questions that you would like me to ask in the future as well in the comments below, and be honored to ask them on your behalf. What I'm hearing is men need to work on their resistance to contain a woman, and women need to work on their resistance potentially also to being contained by a man.
Exactly, but I'm going to work on women. I got to work on women separately, because this is what I'm going to say, and it's very important for men to get what I'm about to say. It is not masculine for a man to dictate his or make his level of containment dependent on a woman's capacity to take it in. What I am trying to get men to is a point of so much empowerment that you don't need a woman to be in a certain state or not. I don't actually agree with a lot of these men right now who are teaching, you know, how to interact with a woman, how to be sort of the masculine feminine dynamic. There are some men out there that are teaching about this. I very much disagree with them, you know, putting pressure on both equally in the relationship, as if a man can only really be in this masculine dynamic if a woman lets him. I don't agree with. I don't actually agree with that. If I am working with women, which I will be a lot, on how to be the dance partner in this male-female dynamic, I want men to drop it. Just leave that to people like me. Drop it. Your job is to learn how to bring containment even when a woman is not receiving that well. That doesn't mean you let go containment. It means you contain it in a different way. What I mean by that is it's not, again, it is not empowering for a man to make his capacity to bring his masculinity into a relationship or to provide containment contingent upon a woman. Do you see that's to be behind the ball?
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's why in this course, I'm going to put all the pressure on men, and I explained in depth why I did that. I'm putting all the pressure on men to just take women out of the equation in that way, master containment, regardless of what is going on here. That doesn't mean don't be responsive. It means don't respond by dropping containment. Don't make your masculinity contingent upon whether she's, in her feminine or not. I need men to be in that space so that women have something to respond to. And then I'm going to help women to work through their issues and to be better dance partners with this dynamic.
Personal question. I'm going to project on you for a sec. Is it disappointing for you that it's taking a woman to need to educate men on masculinity, potentially? How are you feeling about that?
No, actually.
Cool. Just wanted to tune in.
I feel a deep sadness that men have lost sight of this to such an extreme degree that anyone has to teach them.
Cool.
I am feeling very sad that the men that I'm watching teach are themselves so very lost with it.
I think that's what I was trying to ask about.
As for me, being a female teaching this, it does not upset me at all. I just want men in this. And the reality is that I know that as a person who, for a lot of different reasons, I've got information that other people have lost and do not have. And I'm very comfortable with being in the position to teach that type of thing. There's no disappointment whatsoever. I know exactly why men are where they are and exactly why women are where they are. And I feel a lot more compassion than I could ever feel disappointment. I'm just frustrated. What you see is a lot of frustration that I even have to be having conversations in the year 2025 about, we should be taking responsibility for each other's well-being. Like the fact that I even have to say that's insane. The same as it's insane that I'm sitting in a day and age when I have to say men and women are not the same.
Yeah.
There is a lot of frustration around the fact that we're living in a world where that's the case.
Well, that's also one of the questions I had for you today was, Teal Swan, we could be talking about anything. Ancestral healing, intergenerational trauma, there's so many, there is no ground that we couldn't be covering, to be honest. And yet it's not lost on me that I'm in a conversation with you talking about this at this moment in time. The importance of this now? ?
Okay. Yeah, it's far-reaching because our relationships are falling apart. I mean, absolutely falling apart. And what we're up against is two very drastic abysses, if you will. One of them being AI. We are steamrolling towards a point in time where relationships are so drastically painful that there's a very high likelihood that people in general decide that it's better to just custom design your partner to your needs. That's being in a narcissistic relationship. That's no longer having to dance a dance. That's me saying, I literally have the capacity to program a partner for myself, and it's so real for me that it doesn't matter. We're done with each other. That's number one. Number two, I'm watching a very real potential in the future here for, quite frankly, the modern warfare to put everybody in a position where we are quite literally slaves to the system by virtue of us being separated by the powers that be. Right now, you've got government institutions that are literally, they're so bent on control, and they know that the biggest problem when it comes to being able to control is groups and men. So I'm sorry right now. I am really honest to God. When I am looking at everything from this perspective that I'm able to reach that most people can't go to, when you're looking from that objective perspective, it is very obvious that the way to turn the ship around is actually with men. It's with men deciding we are done playing zero-sum games with each other. It is very important for us right now where we are in the world to really establish that brotherhood matters. We're going to look out for each other rather than play zero-sum games with each other and call it manly. We need to establish a worldwide brotherhood, period, the end. Okay? That's number one, because unless that happens, we're going to keep going against each other's best interest in a way where now the thing that all of us have to protect everybody from is each other. Okay, so it's with that, and it's with, you know what, actually, we don't want government institutions to be the ones that are providing containment because it's a very shaky and unstable position. It opens the door for dangers. We as men would like to master containment, masculine containment, and be the ones that are co-providing containment for the women, for the children, to some degree for each other. It's very easy to see from that higher perspective that when men really step into that position in the world, they start to turn this kind of a ship around, and they make themselves a lot less vulnerable to the types of controls which make human life, honestly, not livable. So this goes far beyond, yes, I like that you asked me the question, why now, Sheila? Because it goes far beyond just wanting men and women to like their relationships. I'm looking at world problems, big world problems, which are turned around overnight by men learning to do this in general.
Teal Swan, thank you so much. It is always such a pleasure and an honor. I'll put links to everything, the course, the book, in the show notes below. I'm always so grateful for your time and these opportunities to dive into these conversations. As always, it's never lost upon me just, the rawness, the authenticity. I always feel like the conversations we have, and maybe I'm a bit loaded here because I'm part of the conversation, but they always feel avant-garde. I don't know how else to describe it. It's always like we're 6 or 10 years ahead of where everybody else is, but it's always important that I feel like we have these transmissions and share them with the world, and for those people that are willing to do the work to show up, and I'm glad there's going to be some resources for them to go there. I'm so grateful for your time and energy here today, but also I'm infinitely grateful for you. Your videos have been a guiding light for me for so long, and I'm just really, really appreciative for the being that you are. Thank you so much, Teal.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Half my life's in books, written pages, live and learn from fools and from sages.